You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look at better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of What If Deku Enters Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Pixel's Fanbook on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Apartment complex, Mustafu, Tokyo, Japan. In an apartment complex, in one practical apartment. Home to one teenage boy who had a round face framed by a short mess of fluffy dark green hair which sticks up at odd angles around his head, casting noticeably dark shadows onto itself. He also had a set of 4 symmetrical freckles in diamond formations, one on each cheek, but despite these prominent traits, he's often described by others as being plain-looking. He slowly opens his large and somewhat circular eyes which, his irises were the same green color as his hair, as he hears his phone alarm go off. He groans as he tries to reach for it without sitting up. After a few misses, he finally gets it and turns off the alarm, right before he looks over to it to see the time and date, and immediately sighs. He saw what day of the week it was. Monday, the start of the week and the first day of the school week. Man, I hate Mondays. 'Cause bakugou and his lackeys get to school early to beat the hell out of me. The boy mutters as he turns and lays back down, face first, onto his pillow. He thought about skipping school or the day, or the week but knew his mother would freak out that he was purposely missing school, even though she didn't know he was doing it to avoid getting bullied and beaten up, again. Might as well get up and start the day like every other day. Depressed and bored plus I really don't think these two would like me not showing. Like last time. The boy says, feeling a chill go down through his spine after remember the massive cheek pinches and head slaps he got from the last time he ditched school. And this was all last month too. He gets up from his bed and takes something of his bedside, he puts on a pair of large black round frame glasses and slowly wakes to his door and exits his room. He walks through a hallway towards the kitchen and sees 2 people in the kitchen, busy cooking and setting the table for breakfast. One of them turns and sees the boy was standing at the doorway. "Oh, Izuku. About time you woke, and by yourself too. I was just about to send Eri to wake you up." The person who saw the boy, now known as Izuku, says as she places her hand on her hips. This person was a slightly plump mid-aged woman who had shoulder-length hair with a ponytail on the left. She was wearing a light blue blouse and a light yellow skirt with a green apron on. "Yeah, Onia-chan. I was about go to your room and do an Eri wake-up special." The other person in the kitchen yells as she throws her little hands in the air. She was a 5-year-old girl with bluish, off-white hair, messy and unkempt which could have been caused as she just woke up not that long ago, which part in the middle of her forehead, and was almost reaching down to her waist. She has very wide, innocent-looking eyes just like Izuku but hers were bright red in color. Poking out from the right side of her forehead is a small, brown horn. She was wearing an overly large t-shirt that wrote, "Manga Lover" on it in Japanese kanji which barely covered her black shorts. The woman was Inko Midoriya, Izuku's mother and the little girl was Eri Midoriya, Izuku's adopted little sister. Izuku just nervously laughs and rubs his neck. "Sorry, Mom and Eri. Guess it was bound to happen that I woke up by myself." Izuku says. It's known that Izuku is a heavy sleeper so he could sleep through anything. The only thing that wakes him up is physical pain and in this case, an Eri wake-up special which Eri jumps and delivers 2 boots to Izuku's chest. Well, that's good. I hope you can continue this. Now go and clean yourself up about you eat with us. Inko says as she resumes her cooking while Eri resumed her job in setting up the dinner table. Hi. Izuku says as he walks towards the bathroom. He enters it and starts to clean himself up, unaware that something large had just woke up and was flying across the sky, just above the clouds as it was heading its flight towards his apartment. After breakfast and finish packing their school bags, the two siblings were at their front door, ready to leave for their school. Okay mom. Me and Eri are about to leave. Izuku says as he straps his large yellow backpack on. He was wearing his middle school uniform, which was a plain black Kakurin uniform with yellow buttons, accommodated with his overly sized red high-top sneakers. Okay, have a wonderful day my darlings. Inko called from the kitchen. Ready? Izuku asks Eri, who was wearing a white dress shirt, under a red overall dress and large yellow boots. She also had her hair in pigtails and was wearing a yellow hat. Always Onie-chan. Eri says, filled with energy as Izuku opens the front door, ready for whatever this day was going to throw at him. But what he wasn't ready for was the head of a big green European dragon with black wings and a light green underbelly. Izuku and Eri froze in place after they just processed that a dragon was right in front of them. The dragon growls a little bit as it blinks. Right before it let out a massive roar, blowing wind towards the siblings as the two just stare at it. After the roar, the two finally realized that the dragon in front of them was real and they were scared. Izuku. Eri. What was that? Inko yells as she heard the roar. She runs to the front door and... Dragons. The most powerful of all beings. An imaginary creature that has wings for flight, razor-sharp teeth that can go through anything, possesses magical powers, and can breathe flames that can melt even the strongest metals on earth. Future Izuku narrated as a glowing magical symbol appear in front of the dragon, which caused the dragon to glow brightly and shrink down in size until the glowing dragon was in the hallway to the apartment. Tadie. A girl who is just a little older than Izuku shouts as she appears right in front of Izuku, Eri and Inko. She had long blonde hair with flaming pink tips and red-orange eyes with dilated pupils, and a buxom figure with large thighs and plump, bouncy melons, claiming to be a D cup, for dragon size. She was wearing a maid's outfit. She also had a large green tail sticking out from under her maid's dress, and on her head, were horns, that looked like bamboo branches, sticking out of each inside of her head. She lands on the ground and stands up straight, which makes her bosom bounce a bit. She looks at the family and smiles brightly as the family was just trying to process all this with Inko doing one thing, fainting. And apparently, the one in front of me wants to be my wife, and Maid, guess life doesn't suck after all. Oh, and this is the story of how I became a hero and apparently the Dragon King at the same time and with a HRM by my side as well. Izuku and Eri were standing at the front door, not moving once as their mother was laying on the ground. They were staring at the girl who just a moment ago was a large green dragon. Good morning Izuku. How has it been so far? The dragon-turned girl asks Izuku, who just looks at her as he tries to understand what was going on as answers were streaming through his mind until one conclusion had sense in this situation. I'm still dreaming. That's it. Izuku thought. I don't know. I'm still waiting for my sister to wake me up to see. Izuku says. Would you allow me into your lovely house? Dragon Girl asks as Izuku just raises an eyebrow at her request. Yeah right, you'll eat me and my family if I do. I'm not that stupid. Izuku thought, not falling for whatever she was playing at. Actually. Izuku was about to deny her entrance when Eri cuts him off. Yes, Dragon Lady. Come on in. Eri yells as she grabs one of the Dragon Girl's hands and drags her into the apartment. Izuku stood there, with wide eyes as he processes what his sister just did. Dang it Eri, why is your curious and naive mind come out now for all times? Izuku thought, now having no choice in this. He picks up Inko and closes the door, walking into his apartment. Izuku, Eri, revived Inko and the dragon girl were sitting at the dinner table as Inko, Izuku and Eri just watched at the dragon girl with strange smiles while the dragon girl just had a bright smile. "So, what is your name, dear?" Inko asks, trying to make conversation. "Toru." Toru the dragon girl, who they found out was named Toru, says her name. "So, you're saying we met last Friday night and I offered you to come live here, with us?" Izuku asks as, Toru nods. "Indeed. You said it yourself." Toru says as Izuku just sweat drops at how easily Toru answered him. "Okay, why am I not waking up yet? Eri should have it else been it by now. There's no way this girl is a dragon, it has to be a quirk. It has to be." Izuku thought as he looks down to the floor and sees a large green dragon tail wailing. Or maybe this isn't a dream at all. Izuku thought as he decides to ask the question that's been bugging him. "Say, can you tell just where did we met exactly?" Izuku asks. "The forest. We met in the forest, just near the city." Toru say. "Did I? Okay, let's at least try and remember that day so I can see if she's telling the truth." "Okay, so I went to school, got to class, got spider lilies on my desk and death notes as usual, hung out with Pachan and Emily, got beat up on the roof by Bakugou and his crew, saw an opportunity and bolted away, they followed me into the forest and I lost them there. And then I found a dragon, a funny and cute one at that, and we talked." "Is she the dragon?" Izuku thought as the question he said on Friday replayed in his mind. "If you don't have a place to stay, you could stay with me and my family." Izuku went pale, he finally remembered that conversation with Toru. Inko sees Izuku went pale and turns to him. "Are you okay, Izuku?" Inko asks. "Yeah, it's just, I did offer her our home for her to stay." Izuku says as his face flashes with a blush of embarrassment. "Holy sticking CRP. I invited a girl to live at my house and I didn't even remember do it." Izuku thought. "I'll never forget these wonderful words. And how you were brave enough to push that big sword out of me." "Wait, sword? You were stabbed by a sword?" Inko says, concerned for Toru as she was still injured. "Yep, and it really hurt when the sword was stabbed into my back, but your son here came and yanked off me and saved my life. I owe you my life. It was no problem." "Really?" Izuku says. "No, it's really something big. You saved my life. So, to repay your gratitude, I've decided to become your maid/wife." "Maid/wife?" The Midoriya family yells as. "Yes, Izuku's dragon maid/wife. But, I'm too young to get married. Plus, I really don't think that we need a dash," Izuku was saying, but Inko cupped his mouth shut with her hand, interrupting him. "Wait, no, of course we'd like you as our maid and as my son's wife." Inko says as Toru's and Izuku's eyes widen, one of excitement and the other for disbelief. Izuku removes his mother's hand from his mouth and yells. "Wait, what? Really?" Toru yells as she jumps from her seat and started to bounce on her heels. "Mom, you can't be serious." Izuku says, praying that his mom was joking. "Izuku, I do think it's time for you to start dating. Plus, this is a chance for me to get grandbabies." Inko shouts as her eyes were sparkling at the images of grandbabies running around. Izuku, Eri and Toru had a reaction at the mention of grandbabies. While Toru and Izuku blushed madly at the mention of babies, she and Eri were also having stars in their eyes at the image, while Izuku, well, his entire face lost its natural color. "Mom. Oh shush sweetie. We can talk more about this later when you two get back. Since you are running late to school." Inko says, causing Izuku to get confused. "Huh?" Izuku utter as Inko just point to something behind him. He turns and see a clock as it was showing that the time was 7:45 a.m. The first PRD for both Izuku and Eri's school start at 8 a.m. OCRP. We're late. Eri, grab your bag and meet me at the front door. Izuku yells as Eri gets up from her seat and rushes to the door. Izuku grabs his yellow backpack and saw the time again. He curses his stupidity because he knew it would take them just 20 minutes to get to Eri's preschool by train and walking and 5 minutes to reach Izuku's school on foot. He was about to call it quits when he saw Toru and remembered she had black wings in her dragon form. He rushes to her and grabs her hands. Toru. Can you fly? Izuku asks as Toru's eyes brighten at the question as a little blush was starting to appear on her cheeks. Why yes I can. Toru says. Great. 'Cause we really need your help to get us to school. Izuku says, causing Toru's eyes to widen right before she gained a big bright smile. Then let's go. She yells as she drags Izuku with her to the door and sees Eri there, waiting. She takes Eri and bursts through the door as she started to glow bright orange. The glowing ball suddenly shot into the sky as Inko runs out outside to see the glowing ball slowly disappear over the clouds. She smiles. Oh, I have to tell Caitlin and Ian about. I just hope that the girls won't get jealous over Toru. Inko says as she giggles. Ready to tell her friends over the morning's events. Izuku and Eri were having the time of their young lives. Why? Because hey, we're currently on Toru's back as she flew through the sky at a high speed, no high enough to destroy their entire face, A/N, if you get this reference, you're a legend and my friend, but fast enough to get to their destinations on time. Yay! Faster Toru! Faster! Eri yells, loving the feeling of the wind as they soar. Izuku on the other hand. No. Not faster. He was not loving this that much. Sorry, what did you say? I can't hear you too. What are you saying? Toru yells. Izuku looks at her and actually gave a thought on her proposal on the maid gig. I guess, she's not that bad. I guess she could live with us. Izuku says. Really Onie-chan? She's going to live with us. Eri yells. Are you serious? Toru yells, clearly she could hear them perfectly. Oh, now you can hear us. Izuku says as Toru turns away, blushing from getting caught. I guess it wouldn't be too bad to have someone else in the house. She could keep mom company. I mean, what's the wrong that could possibly happen having a dragon as your maid? Izuku thought as Toru continues to fly. After getting dropped off on a rooftop just a block away from his school by Toru, he began thinking about her and how she could really do as a maid for him and his family. I mean, besides keeping mom company, does she even know how to be a maid? Izuku thought as he thought on how Toru could maid, and an image popped into his head showing a doodle on Toru using her fire to cook a steak, resulting in the house, an apartment building burning down, and they get the blame. Izuku pales as the image fades away. Oh, God, I'm going to have to teach on how to be a maid. Actually, I'll teach her on how to be all various maid in the book. Izuku thought as he pinches his nose. He was already starting to regret this as he now had to go online and actually sees what types of maids are there. Hey, Izuku. Izuku's thoughts were put on hold as he approaches the school front gate and sees two girls, one taller than the other, wearing a black sailor fuku with a black blouse with attached a sailor-style collar, a red necktie, and a black pleated skirt, with one for the two girls was wearing black tights and the other was just wearing black high-knee shoes. One had auburn-colored hair and pupils with blushes on her cheeks, while the other one had two horns on her head and had pink skin with pink messy hair. The taller girl for the two was wearing sneakers, one being pink with pink lines on the side while the other one's shoes with white with the soles of the shoes were pink. The two were waiting for their best friend who was currently running late. The taller girl had pale gray hair of waist length which was tied into a high ponytail, her bangs were parted to the left side of her face, hanging down over her eye and obscuring the majority of the left side of her face. She had dark bags under her blue eyes and a small mouth with full lips. Her hands are strangely held up as high as her elbows, with her hands draped down, with this gesture being somewhat connotative of a ghost and giving herself off as one. The other girl was a short girl with a round face and a short equine muzzle, her face framed by thick, wavy blonde hair which reaches halfway down her back, some shorter bangs hanging down her forehead. Her eyes were large and round, Prussian blue in color, and she had a pair of tall, lyre-shaped pale tan horns on her head. Her calves were notably rounded, shaped similarly to those of a horse, and instead of feet, she had brown hooves with sliver horseshoes attached to them, and a short horsetail poking out from the end of her tailbone. They were Reiko Yanagi, childhood best friend of Izuku, and Pony Tsunatori, an American Forgiven exchange student and also second best friend of Izuku. "Morning guys," Izuku greets his friends as he approaches them. "Good morning Midoriya," Reiko greet with a calm yet dead tone in her voice. "Mornin' Izuku, how you doing?" Pony greets with a cheerful tone. Good, as a Monday morning can get." Izuku says, remembering the early morning events today. "That's a surprise, knowing you and how you hate Mondays." Reiko says. She and Pony knew just how much Izuku despised Mondays, much more than cold katsudon. "Yeah, you weren't thinking of ditching school again, aren't ya?" Pony asks as she smiles with a menacing purple aura starting to sprout out of her, with Reiko just looking at Izuku was calm yet cold demeanor as she had the same area sporting out of her. No, I wouldn't do that." Izuku says as he senses the menacing aura coming off the two. "Good, because you know what would have happened if you did, right?" Reiko asks, staring deep into Izuku's eyes with her cold blue eyes. "Yes." Izuku squeals, not wanting their wrath this early in the morning. "Great, now come on. We got homeroom to get to." Pony cheerfully says as the menacing aura suddenly fades away like it was never there. Izuku lets out the breath he didn't even know he was holding as he follows Pony and Reiko into the building and walk through the halls, straight to their homeroom class as they were talking about what they did over the weekend. "So, Izuku, did you watch those new episodes of Miyaruko-chan and Stop Bullying Me, Miss Nagatoro, or even Demon Slayer or Attack on Titan yesterday?" Pony asks their resident glasses-wearing friend. It was known to their families and those who actually knew the trio, they were otakus, for various things. Pony was an anime, manga, and gaming otaku. Reiko was the same as Pony with anime, manga, but she also liked all things supernatural and spooky, staying up at night and being on Reddit. Izuku, while having the same interests as his best friends, he also was a fanboy on heroics, comics, and strangely, sorcery, as he found the art intriguing and would like to practice it if it was even possible. "Oh right, sorry Pony, I forgot. I was busy reading a book my grandpa mailed to me and I was listening to some music. Look like I lost of time." Izuku says as he rubs the back of his head while Pony just looks at him and pouts. "But you promised you'd watch them on Friday." Pony yells while waving her arms in the air, like a child who was having a fit. While she was doing this, she and Reiko never noticed Izuku's eyes widen at the mention of Friday. It remained him on Toru. He shakes his head to get that out of his mind for the moment. "Sorry, Pony. I'll make it up to you, I promise." Izuku says as Pony just turns away still pouting. "You better, with an anime binge this weekend, 'cause I found some old school anime we all can watch, and you better not try and dodge this, I know where you live Midoriya." Pony yells as she points to Izuku who starts sweating. He knew not to PSS Pony off as she'll do everything in her power to get back at you, and he was a victim to one of those moments back when they were kids during summer break. But that's another tall for another time. NN noticed. "So, Yanagi-chan, what were you doing during the weekend?" Izuku asks, trying to swift the spotlight off him. "Oh, I was watching a live stream of Misha Collins and he was answering some questions on the chat. I may or may not have given him a lot of questions during the stream, and after that, I went on GTA RP and started a whole war on the server and I got banned of a week of causing the severe to crash." Reiko says so smoothly, which would shock most people but not Izuku and Pony as they were used to how Reiko talks at most times. They continue to walk to their homeroom and finally arrive to the classroom. They took a few deep breaths right before they enter the room, and everyone who were already in there stop whatever they were doing and see them enter and start shouting at them with insults. Well, if it isn't Horse Freak, Ghost FTSH, and Deku? One classmate yells. Hey otaku freaks, how was your weekend? Crappy I hope, another classmate yells. Losers. Freaks. Weirdos. Go and leave us normal kids, Deku. The two girls can stay though. Yeah, I never understand why they hang out with that nerd. Yangi and her legs and lips. Man, I'd do anything to get with her. What about the blonde? She got a great butt and she's got curves for days. One by one, the class just rolled the insults out to our trio, but they never did listen to them. Soon the trio had their way to their desk on the far right side at the back of the classroom. Izuku went to his, which was by the window, as he ignores the calls from his classmates. Just ignore them, Izuku, like every other day. And I'll be fine. Izuku thought, trying to remain calm. He reaches his desk and looks at it as it was trashed with writing on it saying, and in no particular order, go die in a alley, freak. Nerd. Do us a favor and do yourself in. Kill yourself and leave those two alone. And finally, his least favorite insult, Deku. There are also red spider lilies on his desk. Now for those who don't know what the red spider lilies mean in Japanese culture and legend. The red spider lilies represents death, and Izuku has been getting those flowers for years now, so much that he's not even bothered by them anymore like he was when he first got them. Great. Izuku thought, seeing his desk. This wasn't the first time he'd seen his desk getting trashed like this. This has been going on for the whole time he's been attending this school. Izuku takes his backpack off and places it on the ground and opens it to pull out some cleaning supplies he brought with him. He was so used to this and resorted to bringing his own cleaning supplies to school, since the school never bothered to replace the desk nor punish the ones responsibly. As he cleans the desk, he hears someone approach him and places their dirty shoes onto the chair. Well, looks like Deku's cleaning his desk again. Hey nerd. When you're done cleaning up your SHT, come and clean my shoes for mine. Got some SHT on it when I was walking here and I need a peasant like yourself to clean it for me. Izuku looks up and sees it as one of his classmates. This person was a male, the same age as Izuku. He was a young man of average height, with a slim, muscular build, and a fair skin tone. He had short, spiky, sandy blonde hair with choppy bangs that hang over his eyebrows. His eyes are sharp and bright red in color. While he did wear the school's uniform, he had his blazer opened a little at the collar and had his shirt unbuttoned also at the collar. This look gave him more of a delinquent look. His name was Katsuki Bakugou, former childhood friend, now turned bully who invests all his time during school to bully Izuku by any means, and the school is aware for this. He has not once tried to stop this. Bakugou. Izuku thought coldly, he really hates this guy. Sorry Bakugou, you can do it yourself since I'm not wasting my time doing that. Izuku says as he resumes his cleaning. He's suddenly grabbed by the back of his collar and pulled from the ground and held by one of Bakugou's lackeys, and his head is forcefully turned to face Bakugou. That wasn't a request, Deku. It was AF command. Bakugou says as he glares at Izuku, who had a cool yet uninterested expression on his face. Pony and Reiko were watching this and they got mad. This guy always did this when Izuku did nothing to him, but he goes out of his way to bully Izuku to the extreme. Pony and Reiko get up from their desk and face Bakugou's group. Hey, leave me alone Bakugou. Why do you always go to him when he's not even looking at you? Pony yells while glaring at Bakugou. Reiko, who wasn't speaking, just glares at the lackeys as her eyes had a dead tone to them which gave off a deadly vibe off her, and this sent chills going down through the lackeys' spines. Bakugou, however, wasn't fazed by Reiko's glares and turns from Izuku and glares at both of the girls. Shut up my little pony beach. This is between me and Deku. Not your business. So F off. Bakugou roars at Pony as the girls took a step back but still stood their ground. Bakugou scoffs, he would deal with Deku's beach friends later, right now. He has a nerd to kill for disobeying his order. Listen here Deku, you're gonna clean my shoes, nice and clean or you'll roast your butt dash, Bakugou was saying his threat when Izuku cuts him off and speaks. Into next week, dude, you've said that same exact line to me for years and others. I know what's going to come, like in detail. I say no, you blow me up with your explosion quirk, I take it and the teacher walks in and ignores the smoke and burning smell in the air and blames me for it when we all know it wasn't me who set you off. Later during the break, you and your boys jump me and beat the living CRP out of me and leave me to nurse my injuries and after school, you jump me again, and the CYCL repeats again tomorrow. I have a question for you though, do you even just tired of doing the same thing every single day here at school? Do you get some sort of high from this? Are you some sort of SDST? 'Cause if so, you can just go to the red light district downtown and get someone who'll let you beat them up. Izuku says as Pony and Reiko snicker from his comments while trying to stop themselves while the others in the classroom heard what Izuku said and coughed to disgust their own laughs and snickers. This did make them think about it a bit. Bakugou on the other hand was not amused at all over Izuku's comments. He clenches his fists as smoke starts to course off them, showing that his quirk was active. Why you little? Bakugou growls as he lifts his hand up, his palm glows from the heat it was generating for his attack, he starts to send it down to Izuku. The girls who saw this were about to attack if Bakugou blew Izuku up, regardless if they were several outnumbered and outpowered. Izuku sees the attack coming and was about to take it willingly since what was the point in fighting Bakugou when he always did this. Just as the attack was about to reach its target, the door opens and the teacher walks in. Causing Bakugou to stop his attack, just above Izuku's head as the explosion went off, leaving some of the hair on top singed. Alright students. Get to your seats and Bakugou, leave your classmate alone. I don't want to deal with this now, I'm coming down from a hangover last night. The teacher says as he walks to the front while holding his head from the banging headache he was having. Bakugou and his lackeys knew better to fight now even with the teacher like this, so the lackeys back away as the one holding Izuku lets him go and walks to his desk with the other lackeys. Bakugou stays and glares at Izuku as the glasses-wearing boy was straightening his uniform. Bakugou then leans forward and places himself near Izuku's ear and whispers something to him. This isn't over Deku. Not by a long shot. Bakugou whispers as he shaves Izuku with his shoulder and walks to his desk. Izuku sighs, thanking what was beyond for giving him a little break but known Bakugou was a man of his words. He'd get him if he found him during the break. Izuku. Thank you guys for the help again guys. I don't know why Bakugou's taking his time out of his life to mess with me but. It was nothing Midoriya. You're our friend and will always protect you. Reiko says with Pony nodding. Yeah, we're the awesome trio. If you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. Pony yells as she raises her fist in the air. Suddenly, a chalkboard eraser is thrown at Pony which hits her against her head. The three turn to see their teacher was up from his chair and was glaring at the three. Stop talking. I'm trying to get over my hangover. The teacher shouts at the three right before slumping back to his chair, holding his head from the pain. Sorry, sir. The three say as they take their seats while Pony rubs the comedic bump on her head. Midoriya Household, Apartment Complex, Mustafu, Tokyo, Japan. It was now in the evening and at the Midoriya household. We see Izuku, Eri, and Toru in the living room, sitting on the couch as a booklet was on the coffee table. Inko was not there as she has her shift at the local hospital. Who was in a green and black t-shirt with an emblem on the front of it, it was a silver shield with two wings in front of the shield, white and blue. He had black shorts on and socks and still had his glasses on. Eri was in a white and pink nightgown and had her hair into a hair bun. Toru was the only one who looked the same, just she was in the morning. Okay, first I want to know. How did you get a maid uniform and why this one? Izuku asks as Toru started thinking on his words and remembers something from the morning. Oh, while on my way here this morning, I saw two girls in maid uniforms handing out flyers to people in the city. Here, I got one that was in the air. Toru says as she goes into her dress's pocket and pulls out a pink flyer. She hands it to Izuku and he reads it. He reads the flyer and sees it was an advert for a place called Maid Cafe Cozy. What is this? Izuku asks while looking at the flyer. It's a flyer to a restaurant in the city. I discovered some real-life maids while on my way here. Toru says as if it was the easiest thing in the world. This however causes Izuku to sweat drop at how native Toru really is. Great, that means we'll have to start from scratch. Thankfully, I went to the library and printed out info on the different types of maids in the world. Izuku says as he places the flyer onto the table and grabs the booklet. He opens it and lands on the different types of maids and what they do. Okay, first thing, a housemaid, usually do things such as cleaning up the house and furniture. So, show me how you would clean the whole living room. Izuku says, pointing at the living room. No problem. Toru says as she turns around and opens her mouth, a ball of fire magic starts to form outside of her mouth and she shoots it to the middle of the living room, which causes a mini explosion and a flash which blinds Izuku and Eri momentarily. Once the flash had faded away, Izuku and Eri opened their eyes to see that the entire room was spotless, so spotless that the furniture was vaporized from Toru's blast and apparently the blast took out the kitchen too. It shocked Izuku and Eri. What the hell, Toru? Our stuff. Izuku yells while Eri was freaking out. How were they going to explain to their mom why their furniture had disappeared? Oops, my bad. Used too much power into that blast. Give me 1 second. Toru says as she holds her hands out and magic symbols appear from her hands and everything that got vaporized started to magical reappear into the apartment as if it was never destroyed. Wait, you can bring it back. The siblings yell, stunned at this. Yep, that's one of the many things I can do with magic. Toru says as she turns around, finishing her job, and flashes a toothy smile. Izuku sighs and goes to the booklet and flips to the next page. Okay, next, a laundry maid, they wash their boss's clothes. Izuku says the info on the maid. Oh, I can defiantly do that. Toru confidently says. Okay then. Eri, can you bring the dirty clothes basket here for the training? Izuku asks as Eri nods. Yes, Onie-chan. Eri says as she runs to the laundry room. Moments later, she returns to the living room, carrying the basket filled with their dirty clothes. Here you go, Onie-chan. Eri says as Izuku pats her head, much to her enjoyment. Thanks, Eri. Now, take out one of my t-shirts and show me how'd you clean it. Izuku says as Toru nods. Sure thing. Toru says, she goes to the basket and grabs one of Izuku's favorite t-shirts and does something that Izuku and Eri were not prepared for. She throws the clothing item in the air and opens her mouth and eats the shirt, much to the siblings' shock. What the heck are you doing? Izuku yells, seeing his shirt getting eaten. Toru holds one finger up as she starts to swirl the t-shirt around her mouth. Ivan Prada's Safia dat envie rebove stains. I can produce saliva that only removes stains. Toru says, but due to the shirt in her mouth, it was sounded like she had her mouth full, which in this case, she did. She pulls the shirt out of her mouth but it had her drool on it, much to Izuku and Eri's disgust. No one would want their clothes cleaned like that. Next. Izuku yells as he turns to the next page while Toru places the t-shirt back into the basket and places it back into the laundry room. Next, parlor maid. They greet people who come to the MSTR's home. Izuku says. Easy. Toru says, giving him a thumbs up. Good, 'cause I order pizza and it should be here any minute. Let's see how you would greet people into our home. Izuku says. It was at that moment that the doorbell rang and Toru goes to the door and opens it to see someone was standing in front of their door. Pizza Thoughts DLVRY service. Got your pizza here. The DLVRY person says. They were a very tall girl with pale fair skin, had round black framed glasses similar to Izuku's but she wore blue eyeliner, had long messy black hair which was styled in twin tails, had spiky teeth that had braces on, wearing a red and black jacket and black jeans. Oh, did I forget to mention she has very curvy body and she was thick and bust AF. A/N, DMN she thick. That's a thick BOI. DMN, sorry about that. But if you know what and who I'm describing, we're friends now. The foolish and inferior human is not welcome in this home, Toru says while having a dark aura around her, scaring the pizza girl in front of her. Hey! Izuku says, as he felt insulted by her words. Oh, you and your family are the exceptions of course Izuku. Toru happily says while Izuku just sighs. Just forget. Izuku says, he turns to the pizza girl. Sorry about her, she's my family's new maid and it's her first day on the job and I'm trying to teach her how to be a maid. Please don't take what she said seriously. Izuku says while the pizza girl just waves her hands. Nah, it's fine. I've seen and heard worse, trust me. At the place I work, you tend to see a whole lot of weird stuff. That'll be $54.86 plus tip. The pizza girl says as Izuku goes into his pocket and pulls out the cash. Here you go. Izuku says, handing her the cash. Be sure to order from us again and we'll make sure your service is done super well, the pizza girl says as she gives Izuku a slyly look and smiles, showing her braces' spiky teeth. Okay. Bye. Izuku says. See ya. The pizza girl yells as she leaves. Izuku closes the door and thinks about what she said. He shrugs his shoulders and walks back to the living room where Toru and Eri were waiting. Okay, I still failed that one. Izuku says as Toru groans from the fail. Ah, man. I thought I got it. Toru says while Izuku was flipping through the booklet. No, you didn't. Okay, this is the last one, kitchen maid. They cook for their MSTR. Please tell me you do know how to cook, right? Izuku asks. Yes, cooking is my specialty. Toru. Okay, then get cooking. Izuku says Toru goes to the kitchen to prepare her dish. 30 minutes later. Izuku and Eri were at the dining table, waiting for Toru to finish her cooking and to present it to Izuku. Here you go. Toru comes out of the kitchen and places her dish down on the table. Izuku looks at the dish and sees it was a large meat dish, but Izuku noticed something was definitely wrong with this meat. What is this? Izuku asks while poking the meat with his fork. Oh, just my own roasted tail. Toru declares as Izuku's eyes wide. You're what? Izuku yells. He looks down and sees her tail was gone. She really did cut her tail off just to cook it. Yep, it's very delicious, try it out. Toru says as she scoots it closer to Izuku but he pushes back. No way. Izuku says, standing up. Huh? Why? Toru asks. There's no way I can eat this. It'd probably kill me if I ate it. Izuku says. Are you sure you don't want to eat it? Maybe you'd prefer it well done instead? Toru asks. That's not the problem, Toru. Izuku says. Then I'm sure you'd really enjoy it. Toru says. I'm not a guy who'd eat dragon meat, Izuku says. Ah, so you're a picky eater, huh, Izuku? Toru says. In some cases, yeah. I am. Izuku says. Don't worry, I'll eat for you. Toru says as she goes to the dish and starts eating it like a beast as she takes big bites from it but only swallows it instead of chewing it. Izuku could only watch in complete disbelief as he watches this carnage while covering Eri's eyes from seeing this. Toru swallows the last of the dish and stood for a little bit right before movement happens under her dress and her tail sudden reappear and flops onto the floor. It can grow back. Izuku yells in disbelief. Took a bit longer than usual to grow back since I had to remove all the poison. Toru says as Izuku's eyes snap opens ever further when she said. And it was poisonous? It could have actually killed me if I ate it. Izuku shouts, he was this close to death and he wasn't truly aware of it. If you ate it in large quantities, then yes. You would have died in 6 hours or so if you're not healed by me since only I can heal those who ate meat from me since my BLD is poisonous. Toru explains as Izuku don't know rather be scared of her or be thankful to her that she ate it. Later, the three are seen back in the living room as Izuku and Eri were on the couch while Toru was sitting on the floor, facing them. Okay, look Toru, I understand you want to be my maid and that's great and all, but you don't have the skills to be a maid. That. Can we go straight to my education from the grounds up? I'll do anything to learn how to be a maid. Can you tell me what you dislike? What I dislike? I can't handle spicy or hot foods and I hate eggplants. I'm not a fan of eggs that don't have their yolks. I had a friend who got killed by an egg that was thrown at him a while back. Toru says, which Izuku thought was impressive. That's one hell of a powerful egg. Izuku commented, wondering how can a single egg take out one dragon if it was strong like Toru since they were friends. He then realizes something. Wait, why are you just asking me what I hate? Shouldn't you be asking me what I like? Izuku asks as Toru just shakes her head on and makes an X gesture with her arms. Nope, I can't do that. Because it's bad luck for dragons. Toru says that Izuku just curious about this. How is it bad luck for you? Izuku asks. See, I had lost a lot of friends who were killed by the things they loved. You know, liquor, women, men, gems and gold, and of course, their quest for more power. Toru says as Izuku nods, now understanding why she couldn't. Out of fear she'd die next. Sounds a lot like us humans. Izuku thought, comparing how humans had fallen for the same things. But I can one thing I do like. Toru says, making Izuku break out of his thought and looks at her. Which is? Izuku asks as Toru stands up and points to him. It is that I like you Izuku, like really like you. In fact, I love you Izukumidoriya. I want to eat you up. Toru confesses as Izuku blushes, he really didn't see this coming but he only had one other thought in mind while Eri was jumping in place. She was excited for some reason. You're going to eat me in my sleep, right? Izuku asks as Toru just shakes her head. I'm not going to eat you. Why would I eat the one I love the most, plus, not like that. I meant secularly, as in SEC. Toru yells as she shuts her mouth and blushes, which came out wrong. Izuku's blush went even further red while he kept his cool expression as he covers Eri's ears. I'm not into dragons, plus I'm too young to do that. Mom would kill me if she found out I lost my virginity. Also, don't talk SEC stuff in front of or while around Eri, I don't want her to get corrupted too soon. Izuku says. I'm young too and still a virgin too. Toru says, that got Izuku's mind ticking. Wait, how old is she actually? Izuku thought as he bites the bullet and asks Toru. Wait, out of curiosity Sake, how old are you really? Izuku asks as Toru starts thinking about it. Well, I really don't remember what year or era I was born into back home but I should be 500 years old, but by human standards in terms of dragon life cycle. I'm at least 14 years old since I only just started my PBRTY. Toru says as Izuku's eye widen at the info. 500 years old. But she's 14 in her human form and has a rack that big and she just started PBRTY. What do dragons eat at their homeworld? Izuku thought. He shakes his head and sees the clock as the time read 21:52 p.m., it was time of bed. Okay, look Toru, we'll have to continue our lessons tomorrow. Eri and I have to go to bed since we've got school tomorrow. Izuku says. I understand. Toru says, nodding in understanding. Izuku was about to go to his room since Eri had left to her room to sleep when he stops as he realizes something. Where will you sleep? Izuku asks, realizing that there were only 3 rooms in the apartment and all were occupied. Oh, I really don't have to sleep much. But I do need to sleep every once in a while. Toru says. And when was the last time you've slept? Izuku asks as Toru turns away from him. 2 months ago. Right before I got stabbed by that DMN sword. Toru says. Izuku sighs, he knew she couldn't sleep in his mom's room nor Eri, since she's most likely sleeping already, and sleeping on the couch, does bad for one's back. So, he was left with one option. Then, I guess you can come and sleep in my room for the night. Izuku says as Toru looks at him with wide eyes. Really? Toru stutters. Yeah, you can take the bed while I'll take the floor. I've got a spare air mattress. Izuku says, he was about to go to his room to take out the air mattress when he felt someone grab his sleeve. It was Toru who was holding his sleeve. Wait. Can I ask you a favor quickly? Toru says as Izuku turns to her. Sure, what is it? Izuku asks as Toru just blushes and plays with her fingers. Cici, can you sleep in the bed? With me? I don't know. Please. Toru asks as she uses the one move that all men are weak against, the puppy eye technique. Izuku tries to fight the technique off but like all before him, he fails and breaks from it. Izuku sighs and looks at her. Fine. I'll sleep with you, but no funny business. Got it? Izuku says. Got it. Toru says as the two go to Izuku's bedroom and to retreat for the evening. A/N, not like that you pervs. Aldria Junior High, Mustafu, Tokyo, Japan. It was morning in Mustafu and at Aldria Junior High, it was the same usual morning for them, and in Class 3B, it was the same old. The students were talking to one another on various things, like pro-hero battles that were treading, sports, girl things. The usual teenagers vibe. However, one of them was not feeling it and that was izukumidoriya who had his face on his desk, mentally exhausted from the past 2 nights teaching Toru on how to be a maid. His friends, Pony and Reiko notices his current state and the two were concerned about him. They look at each other and nod right before turning to Izuku. Hey, Izuku. Pony calls Izuku, who lifts his head up from the desk which had CRP on it again. He was so tired, he didn't even bother to clean the desk today. Yes. Izuku says. Are you okay? You've been like this all morning. Is something wrong? Reiko asks. Yeah. I'm good. Just had a long night, that's all. I'll be fine, trust me. Izuku says, ensuring Pony and Reiko on this as the girls believed him. He face plants on the desk again and yawns. Man, who thought teaching Toru on how to maid would be difficult, but good thing she'll like a sponge and is quick to catch something on. Makes my job easier too. Izuku thought while letting out another yawn. It was at this moment did their homeroom teacher walks into the room. Alright now, settle down. I've got something to announce. The teacher says as the class quiets down and turn to him. Now that I have all your attention. Today, we're getting a new student. And they're outside. A new student? Right as the break is coming up next month. I wonder how they are. Please be a girl. A hot girl. Great, another DMN extra. Well, it's not like they're stronger than me. Bakugou thought. Hey, Izuku. Who do you think is this new student? Pony asks as Izuku just shrugs his shoulders without lifting his head. I have no idea. Izuku says, not really caring about this new student since he knew they'll treat him and his friends crappy just like everyone else. It was only a matter of time. The teacher walks to the door and peeks his head out to the hallway. All right. You may come in now. The teacher says as he walks back to his desk. The door opens and the new student walks into the room. Wow, they're pretty. Yes. Hot. Look at her rack, it's huge. Bigger than other girls in the class. Izuku looks up from his desk and sees who was this new student. No way. Izuku thought with wide eyes as he sees just who was at front of the class, facing them. It was a teenage girl their age, who had long blonde hair with flaming pink tips as she had her hair styled in a high ponytail, red-orange eyes with dilated pupils, had a buxom figure with large thighs and plump, bouncy melons, claiming to be a D cup, for dragon size. She was wearing the Aldera girl's uniform. She also had a large green tail sticking out from under her maid's dress, and on her head, were horns, that looked like bamboo branches, sticking out of each inside of her head. Hi, my name is Toru Midoriya and I'm your classmate. Nice to meet you all. Toru says as she smiles brightly. Her last name had everyone's eyes wide open in shock and all turned from her to Izuku and back to her. What? Silence. Pure, and eerily silent. That was the current mood within the homeroom class of Izuku at Aldera Junior High. Everyone was staring at the new student who turns to be Toru, who somehow got hold of a uniform and was even more enrolled in the school. Some of the students there turned around to the back of the class to see the reaction of Izuku himself. And what was the green fluffy-haired, round-frame glasses-wearing boy feeling right now? Shocked and purely surprised at this new development. Who is this chick and why does she have the quirkless BSTRD's last name? One of the students whispers to his desk neighbor who just shrugs his shoulder while still staring at Toru. I don't know, but she's kinda cute. And thick too. The other student says as he had a present blush on his cheeks as he was marveled by Toru's beauty. Look at them knockers. They're huge. Bigger than most of the girls in this whole school. One of the other male students yells as he was marveling at Toru's beauties, which caused the girls to look down at their beauties and felt insecure at how small they were, while two of them turn and glare at Izuku, who didn't notice their glares as he was still processing Toru was here. Think Deku did something to get this girl to say his last name as hers? One student asks another one. Most likely, I mean, who'd wants to be related or know that loser? One of the female students says as one of the others who heard her turns to her. I know, right? Another female student says. Alright, Miss Midoriya, please tell us a little about yourself. The teacher says with Toru turning to him with a confused expression. What do you want to know? Toru asks. Well, like what are your likes, dislikes, dreams, and goals in your future? The teacher asks as Toru took a moment to think about it and thought it wasn't a bad idea. Okay, I'm Toru Midoriya. I'm 14 years old. I like spending time with Izuku, being near Izuku, I like learning new and interesting things. What I hate is basically all of humanity with the exception of Izuku and his family, of course. Toru says. Wait, what do you mean that you like being near Deku? One of the students asks, which causes Toru to turn to him with a confused look. Who's Deku? Toru asks while the student just points to Izuku. Him. The quirkless BSTRD. Deku, the student says with Izuku just lowering his head down to his arms. Toru saw the condition his desk was and compared it to the rest, and hearing the name the student called him, she could hear the hatred and disgust in his tone as she narrows her eyes a bit. Oh. Yeah, I like being around him since he saved me not too long ago. Toru says as everyone was surprised and shocked at the news of Izuku saving someone when he doesn't have a quirk. Wait, the useless BSTRD saved you? From what? A female student asks and Toru just gains a dark look on her face. It's none of your business. Toru coldly says, which makes the majority of the students flinch as they weren't expecting that from the new girl, and so did the teacher. And your quirk? What is it and what can you do with it? The teacher asks but Toru turns her dark look to him. None of your DMN business. Toru says with an even colder tone than the one she previously used as the classroom's mood dropped in temperature. Oh okay. Thank you for introducing yourself. You can go and have a seat. There's one free one behind Midoriya. The teacher says, pointing to an empty desk that was behind Izuku. Toru beams and walks over to the desk. While this was happening, everyone turns to Izuku while the boys gave him a dirty look that told him that they were going to kill him later while the girls just stared at Toru in envy. When Toru reached her desk, she sat down and the teacher started the lesson. Izuku wasn't really paying attention to the lesson as he was still trying to figure out how Toru got here. Soon though, he felt something hit the side of his head and land on his desk. He looks down and sees a crumpled ball of paper. He takes it, thinking it was another death note to him or a new threat, and opens it. And to his surprise, it wasn't a death note nor a threat, it was just a note, written by Pony and Reiko and it read. Lunchtime, Roof. Bring Toru with you. We need to talk. Izuku looks up and turns to Pony and sees her, staring at him with a look he's never seen before from her. He then turns to Reiko and sees her staring at him with an intense look on her face. Lunchtime, school rooftop. We find our protagonist and his friends on top of the school's roof. Where Izuku and the girls would normally hide from the CRP and beatings he'd get if he was at the cafeteria or at the field, but Pony, Reiko, and Toru were with him this time around, as his best friends were that to ask him a couple of questions. Okay, Izzy. Who is this girl and why does she have your last name? Pony asks. Izuku thought about lying to Pony and Reiko about who Toru was and that come up with a fake story for Toru later at home after school. And don't you try and lie to us, Izuku. We know how to tell you're lying. Reiko says as Izuku's eyes widen at the realization that they did know when he lies. CRP. I forgot that they can tell when I'm lying. Izuku thought and knew he had no other choice but to tell them the truth about Toru. Just then, said dragon maliciously glares at Pony and Reiko with her aura leaking from her body. Now just who you two are to Izuku. Toru growls out with her fangs showing while her eyes went dark. Izuku saw this and immediately knew Toru was going to do something bad. Toru. Stop, don't attack them. They're my best friends. They're good people. Izuku says, which makes Toru turn to him. Really? Toru asks with Izuku nodding. Yes, so please. Don't ever attack or threaten them. Izuku pleads as Toru just look at him for a bit before her aura fades back into her. Alright. Toru says, but her dark look hadn't left her face as Izuku just sighs in relief from the near murder that could have happened. Okay, guys, this is Toru, she's someone I saved a week ago one night in the forest. Izuku says as Pony and Reiko look at Izuku with intrigue at this and knew that there was more to the story than what he was telling. And just how did you save her? Pony asks as Izuku sighs. He was about to speak when Toru jumps in and says it for him. I was stabbed by a holy sword and was slowly dying in the forest when Izuku came and saw me and pulled the sword out, saving my life. Toru says calmly, causing Izuku to sigh and curse Toru's inability to read the room while Pony and Reiko look surprised at what she said. What does she mean by that? Reiko asks. What she means is that I found her in the forest outside the city while I was escaping Bakugou and his goons last week and found her with a sword stabbed into her back, and while in my dazed, concussed state that I got after the beating I got from Bakugou, I pulled the sword out of her body, we talked for a bit and I offered my place for her to stay. Izuku says as Pony and Reiko nod, understanding the story so far. Oh, and she's a dragon. Izuku says, with the two nodding until his words caught up with their minds, causing them to snap on attention and turn to him. Like Ryukyu? Reiko asks, thinking that Toru was similar to the current number 9 pro hero on the Japan Billboard chart, but Izuku just shaking her head. No, not exactly like Ryukyu. While Ryukyu can turn into a dragon, Toru here is a real dragon, like the fire-breathing one we heard in fairy tales, and this is just her in her human form. Izuku explains as the girl's eyes widen at the revelation. They turn to Toru, who just smiles from Izuku's description of her. They process this info for a bit. Both the two turn to her with their eyes sparkling in excitement, but Reiko's expression had not changed. That is so cool. So, you're like a real dragon? Pony asks with Toru smiling. Yep, a really cool and powerful dragon. Toru says with great pride as she shows off a fongy grin. How powerful? Reiko asks as Toru thinks on for about a second before turning to her. If I wanted to, I could have blown this country up in one shot. Toru says nonchalantly as Izuku, Pony, and Reiko had their eyes go wide at the power she possesses, and it did terrify them, knowing that they were the most powerful being on this world. Okay, going to ignore and hopefully forget knowing that information. Now Toru, can you please tell me just how did you get to my school and how did get a uniform? Izuku asks. Oh, I asked Mrs. Midoriya if she could put me into school since she could see that I was so bored at home without you or Eri around. Toru says as Izuku sighs at the mention of his mom. My mom was the one who enrolled you? Izuku asks. Yep. She thought I could go with you to school and learn more about humans. And spend a lot more time with you. Toru says, moving closer to Izuku. Of course. Izuku says, taking off his glasses and rubbing his eyes, feeling more tired than usual. Mom, why did you do this? What reason possessed you in doing this? Izuku thought, trying to think why did his mother do this. Unaware that Inko was doing this for a bit of drama and meddling into her son's love life. Pony then noticed something with Toru's voice. Hey Toru, is it just me, or do we sound the same? Pony asks with Izuku and Reiko looking at her and then to Toru and then back to Pony as the two now just noticed sound the same. Now that you have mentioned it. You two do sound similar. Izuku says, hearing the similarities of their voices. Yeah. Weird, right? Toru says with Pony slowly nodding. That's spooky, nice. Reiko says, finding this really cool. Before anyone else could say anything else, the school's roof access door opens and Bakugou and his 3 friends walk onto the roof and see the group. Well. What do we have here, boys? It's Deku and his little crew of nerds, hanging with the new girl. Bakugou. Do you know that weird-looking kid? Toru asks Reiko, who just lets out a long sigh and nods. Unfortunately, we have the misfortune of knowing this brute and his lackeys. Reiko says. Hey Deku, where were ya? We were looking for ya to give you your daily butt kicking. I've got a new use in my quirk and I want to see what it does to a weakling. And you're the perfect one to use it on. Bakugou says. Bakugou, I'm really not in the mood for your CRP today or any day. So, can you please just leave me alone? Izuku asks, now starting to get fed up with these assholes as he was now getting a headache. Nah, I don't think so Deku. I think I'll stay here. Bakugou says. And what do you want with Midoriya-chan? Can't you guys go one single day without torment? Reiko asks. Yeah, so F off and leave us alone already. Pony yells, now fed up with the bullies. F off Ghosty and my little pony. I ain't talking to you too. I was thinking on telling sweet tips here on Deku's status and I think she wouldn't want to hang around your week but after what she learns. Bakugou says with Toru just raising her eyebrow. Is that so? Toru asks, Goon 1, who had been staring at her with a lustful look on his face, steps forward. Yeah babe, wanna leave this BSTRD and let me show you around the school and maybe the city as we get to know more of each other. Goon 1 asks, smirking while Izuku, Pony, and Reiko got a disgusted look as they noticed the goon's expression and knew what he was after. And why would I do that when I'm fine with where I am? Toru asks, but she was still getting angry on how these boys were insulting her man in front of her. 'Cause sweet tips. This nerd here is quirkless, meaning he's useless and has no place with us, the gifted and elite. And I'm sure that his little friends here will wake up and leave his worthless in the dirt and hang with real men. The goon says as he had a perverted smirk on his face while Toru lowers her head, making her bangs shadow her eyes. So, what do you say, baby, wanna go somewhere private and dash? The first goon could finish what he was saying as Toru suddenly appeared right in front of him with a dark look on her face with her irises glowing and eerie and her pupils were silted to a thin line. No, now just lost. Toru says as she throws a punch into the goon's abdomen, causing him to gasp out all the air in his lungs and spit out a lot of his spit before getting launched across the roof and hitting the wall for the roof's entrance/exit and slides down from it to reveal a large crater into the wall as he fell to the ground unconscious with blood leaking from his head. Everyone froze upon seeing what had just happened. As the second goon turns and was about to use his stone hand quirk to fight Toru, he was intercepted by her as she was in the air above him, still having that dark look on her face as she kicks the goon onto the side of his face, launching him across the roof and hitting the fence, but the fence barely could hold the goon's body as the force of the kick as he remains embedded into the fence. The third goon and bakugou looked shocked after seeing two of their friends get utterly destroyed by the new girl as the goon was sweating and shaking in place while bakugou too was sweating and shaking, but his ego and sense of pride took over, not letting show that he had fear in him. You beach! Bakugou shouts as he rushes at Toru and fires a large explosion from his hands, rocking the school and blowing Toru up while sending Izuku and the girls back a bit as smoke was lingering around the area where Toru was standing. Bakugou felt his hands shake a bit, they weren't used to setting off an explosion that big before he looks at the smoke and smirked. Thinking that he got her. Nice attack, but you should really work on your speed and aim. A voice says behind Bakugou as his eyes open up in shock. He turns around and sees Toru standing behind him and he gets more shocked as he sees her, completely fine as he turns around and sees that the ground he set that large-scale explosion had a big hole on the floor. Wadash, Bakugou could say uttered in shock before he felt something tightly wrapped around his waist. He looks down and sees two arms holding onto his midsection. He turns back to Toru and sees her holding him in a bear hug and felt his midsection was getting crushed by her. Before he could retaliate, Toru suddenly bent backward and flips Bakugou over her as his head, and most of the top half of his body impacted into the concert roof, and breaks it apart as a crater formed. Toru bends back up straight and turns to Bakugou and sees him lying in the crater, blood leaking from his head and was knocked the F out. The last goon was standing, alone and utterly terrified after seeing his friends getting destroyed by Toru. He turns to said dragon and sees her slowly advance to him, like a predator creeping up to its prey. He knew he stood no chance with her, seeing that his quirk only let his fingers grow in length, and after seeing Bakugou, the strongest kid on campus, get beaten by her, he was an ant compared to her. Just as Toru reached him, she stares into his eyes and he saw into hers and saw an image dragon looming over him, flashing its fangs to him with fire coursing out from its nose as he did one logical thing here. He fainted in place. Causing Toru to look confused at this but shrugs soon after getting over it, knowing she won. Izuku, Reiko, and Pony had their mouths wide open and their jaws onto the ground after seeing the sheer one-sided brawl that happened just moments as Toru bends back up straight and fixes her hair as she looks at the bodies around the now damaged roof. Geez, these guys weren't worth getting all riled up over. Toru says before turning to Izuku and company and seeing their shocked expression. What? Toru asks them with a raised eyebrow. Toru, just how much power did you just use in fighting Bakugou and his lackeys? Izuku asks, gaining Toru's attention. Oh, I held back the attacks I used against these humans. By a lot. I wanted to see how they could handle my strength, so I used 3% of my full power just to be safe, but I guess these guys aren't as durable as the ones back in my world. At least those humans could take a few hits and fight back before going down. These guys are just too weak. Toru says, feeling disappointed by how Bakugou and his crew went down too quickly. Izuku and company were now shaking at the utter horror from learning just how much Toru pulled her punches by a lot, and she still kicked their asses to the ground no problem. That was her holding back. What would it look like if she didn't hold back? The trio thought and shivered as there would be blood and guts everywhere on the roof. While the girls and Izuku thanked the heavens that he found her first, as they imagined what would have happened if someone else found and tried to take her powers from her or pissed her off that far. The world would have come to an end if something like that did happen. Man, these guys are real jerks. Are all humans like this here too? Toru asks, breaking the trio out of their thoughts. At most times, humans are cool and good, but there are asses out there who like them. And there is nothing we can do about that. Izuku says with Toru nodding. I see. Toru just says. Not really knowing on how to process this, considering her track record with humans in her life and only recently met another human who's treating her with kindness. What the hell is going on here? The four turn to the door and see a teacher had arrived at the roof. The teacher looks around and sees Goon 1 KO'd beside him with a human-shaped crack onto the wall, profoundly bleeding from his head. The teacher then turns and sees Goon 2 and 3, also KO'd, laying on the floor with Goon 3 still embedded into the fence, bleeding from his nose and out of his mouth, while Goon 2 was just lying on the ground, completely fine, just unconscious. And lastly, he sees Bakugou, laying in a deep crater as his body was bent upwards and half of it buried in the concrete. He looks up and sees Izuku and his crew and got an idea so to what happened here. You all, to the principal's office. Now. The teacher yells. It is after school, with everyone leaving the school to go whatever they want to do, or we're staying due to after-school activities, as we now find ourselves at the principal's office as the principal looks around the office, filled with Izuku and friends, and a few more people in the room as well. Alright, now that we're all here, we can begin. Now, I believe you are wondering as to why you were called today. The principal asks. That's right, sir. Why are we here? A tall woman with shoulder-length, wavy blonde hair asks in a southern accent. She had two thick, curling horns emerging from the sides of her head, and long, pointed ears of that of a cow. She wore a checked shirt with the sleeves rolled up, denim jeans that had dirt and mud on them, and cowboy boots that had mud and crud on the soles. The wavy blonde woman was Caitlin Tsunatori, Pony's mother. Well, it would appear that a fight broke out on top of our roof with your kids, and the fight included them using their quirks during the fight, from what the teacher on site said on arrival. The principal says as another person in the room narrows her eyes at him. Really? And are you sure about this? Another woman asks. She was an avenge-height woman who had long sliver hair which reached down to her legs and tied with a black ribbon. She wore a black dress with black hand gloves on, a necklace, and black heels. She had this expressionless look on her face while her ice blue irises were piercing into the principal's soul. The silver-haired woman was Aine Yangai, Reiko's mother. I am positive, ma'am. Although the four boys here are currently in the hospital, receiving treatment for their injuries, while one currently going through a traumatic breakdown from whatever happened up there. The teacher stated that Miss Midoriya and her friends were the only ones standing while the boys were all scattered around the roof, most having injuries with only one being completely fine but was unconscious. And that the roof had damages on it. A human-shaped hole onto the door access, human-shaped embedding onto the fencing around the edge of the roof, and a hole that had smog around the hole with some smoke lingering from the hole. Indicating that quirks were used in the fight. The principal says as the mothers turned to the kids and could see that there was more into this story than what the man sitting in front of them was spitting. And you assume that our kids were the ones who beat the boys up? Inko asks, she was also there as Eri was outside the office, reading a kiddie's book. That is right. The principal nods. Okay, that tells sir. Just how could our girls and little Izu could do that then? Iane asks, finding this far-fetched. Correct. Do tell us. Please. Caitlin asks, crossing her arms onto her chest as the principal swallowed the lump in his throat, feeling uneasy at the glances he was receiving from the mothers. The reports from the damage stated that the fight involved the use of quirks. Given how deep the crack made from a hit that carried large power into it. The same can be said for the fencing and its damages. The hole in the roof was created from a fire-based attack or, from an explosion as the smoke was coursing off the hole. And finally, a crater was made from an attack as Katsuki Bakugou was found in it, unconscious and bleeding from his head and nose. The principal says, finishing his report. The three mothers look at him and knew that something in the report was not right. They turn to each other and nod, and Caitlin and turn to their daughters. Girls. Show the principal your quirks, both mothers command, with Reiko and Pony getting surprised at this. They turn to each other and shrug their shoulders before turning to the principal. Reiko holds her hands out and the items on the principal's desk started to float off it and start flying across the room, with Reiko directing them with her hands. As you can see, my quirk only allows me to telekinetically lift objects near me. Unfortunately, I have a limit where I can only lift objects that are at the weight of an Avenge-weighted school bag. If I go too far past my limit, I'll start to have migraines and my nose would bleed from the pressure. Reiko says as she directs the objects back to the desk and places them back onto it, but not in their original places. Then, the horns on Pony's head shoot off her head and flew across the room straight to the principal, who had to duck when the horns were about to hit him on his head and the horns hit the wall beside him, sticking into it. As he lifted his head from his hiding spot, he saw a new set of horns almost immediately grow in place of the old ones on Pony's head. I can shoot the horns on my head like a cannon, but that's all I can do. Just aim my head and fire, plus I can only shoot 4 out at a time before I'll start to feel lightheaded. Pony says while going over to the horns in the wall to pull them out. And let's not forget that little Izu ain't even got a quirk. So, unless he suddenly got one in the fight and charged in like raging bull-like ones at the rodeo in Dallas. You could see that he and the girls couldn't have done that to boys. No offense, Izu. Caitlin says before turning to Izuku and patting his shoulder. None taken, Aunt Caitlin. I see. The principal says, now cursing himself with the evidence was now not on his favor, but he felt that he could save this by turning to the one person that wasn't questioned yet, Toru. All right. Ms. Midoriya. Since you were the one who fought against the boys. Can you tell how you did it and if you used your quirk in the fight? The principal asks Toru, who just looks at him. Oh, yeah, I didn't use my quirk at all. All I did to these guys was self-defense. They came to us, trying to cause us trouble. I felt that me and the others were in danger and I took action in protecting myself and the others. Besides, that kid with the explosion power, he was the one who blew a hole in the roof. So, you can't do something into us that big since we never used a quirk in that fight at all or even had one in the first place. Toru explains with the principal nodding but felt mad he couldn't do a thing against Izuku. I see. The principal says before sighing. Well, I'll go over with the boys. Get their side to the story and we'll see as to where we will go from there. The principal says. The mothers just look dissatisfied by this but they nod, nevertheless. They and the teens walk out of the office and see Eri, still reading her book. Hearing the door open, Eri looks at them walk out. As soon as she sees Pony and Reiko exit the room, Eri shoots out her seat and rushes towards them. Pony nay. Rei nay. I missed you. Eri yells as she jumps to them as they catch her and gives the two teen girls a big hug. Which the girls smile to. Hi, Eri/hello Eri. The two girls greet the little girl as they set her down and all start walking out of the building. While walking out, the mothers were discussing something. How much y'all wanna bet that fat pig ain't gonna do a DMN thing to them boys? Caitlin says. Well, I'm not a betting woman. But if I was, I'm bet a large sum of money and say that he won't do what he says. Ayane says with Inko sighing as she turns to Izuku. Now I can see what you were saying, Izuku, when you told me that your principal is one of these people. Inko says, now seeing what Izuku was telling her earlier in the year. Yeah, sorry mom, but he is one of these people. Izuku says. The family and friends expect Toru knew what Izuku was talking about. They've faced quirkiest people who think that Izuku was pretty much a defect and that he shouldn't have many privileges at all. Caitlin and Ayane then noticed Toru was walking a little close to Izuku, who looked like he didn't care. They then decide to speak what's been on their minds since arriving to the office. So, Inko. Who's this girl following ya boy? Caitlin asks with Inko flinching, cursing that she had to now answer this. Oh, this is Toru. She just moved in with us. She's from my cousin's family. Inko says, trying to use a cover story, but Mom, Pony-chan and Rei-chan know. You can tell them the truth. Izuku says as Inko looks at him and sees that he was serious. Talk us what? Ayane asks, confused on what they were saying. She's not from either of my family. She's a dragon that's living with us. Inko says with Caitlin and Ayane just looking more confused than before. Wait, she's a dragon? Caitlin and Ayane asks and Toru steps in front of them, with a smile on her face. Yep. A pride dragon. Toru says as her tail appears under her skirt and falls to the ground. Like that pro hero, Ryukyu? Ayane asks as all of the just shake their heads. No mom. She's a really dragon, the mythical one. Reiko says. Well, hot DMN. No, that ain't something you heard and see every day. How'd you find her? Caitlin asks. Inko and Izuku were about to X. Oh, it was Oniai-chan who found her. He saved her and let her stay with us. So, he's her hero. Like me. Eri explains as Caitlin and Ayane look surprised to hear this. They turn to Izuku, who was slightly blushing from the praise Eri was giving him. Aizu? Ayane says. Yeah. I found her in the forest while I was trying to run from Bakugou and his goons from beating me up even further, and I found her lying there and I helped her out. I was out of it since I had a concussion and really didn't know what I was saying until she came to our apartment a few days ago. Izuku explains as the mothers hear how he met Toru and why he ran there in the first place. Making them sigh upon hearing Bakugou in his story. That boy. He really is his mom's son. But much worse. Inko sighs, knowing just where Bakugou's attitude came from, and it looked like she'd have to call his mother again in hopes in stopping this. Well then. Nice to meet ya, Toru the dragon. I'm Caitlin, this little pony's mama. Caitlin greets while grabbing Pony and holding her by her head. Mama. Pony shouts, feeling embarrassed by her mom's actions. Oh, hush now, pumpkin. Caitlin says. Ayane turns to Toru and bows to her. Greeting Dragon-san. I am Ayane Yangai. Mother to Reiko. Ayane politely greets. It's nice to meet you too. Toru bows back to them before turning back to the others and walks with them. As they walked towards the gate, Caitlin noticed something about Toru. Man, for a dragon. She's hella cute. Might actually be cuter than our girls. You think that she could steal Aizu from them? Caitlin asks, causing the other moms to look at Toru and see that she was cuter than Pony and Reiko, and seeing that she was walking close to Izuku while Pony and Reiko were also walking close to Izuku, with the boy being dense to this and just holding Eri's hand. Please, Caitlin-san. I feel that our girls have a better chance of winning Izuku's affections, but we know which one has the best chance in this. Iane says, knowing just how Reiko has had feelings for Izuku for years now and felt that she had the best chance to get with him out of Pony and Toru. Caitlin scoffs. Well, it'd be my little girl. Sure, she might not have my looks, seeing that she got M from her papa, but I know she's got a big heart, and if she's like me, she'll get more as the years go on. Caitlin says, knowing that in her bloodline, the women usually win if they're in the running for a suitable male. Iane on the other hand felt differently. I feel that Reiko has a better chance. As we young women tend to get what we want. And we've never lost the thing we want, to anyone. Iane says, glaring at Caitlin with her irises glowing promotionally, with Caitlin returning the glare. Inko, having enough of their antics, uses her quirk to pull their ears, causing them to stop their glaring fight. Ladies, please. We can go and meddle with our children's love lives later. Right now, let's go and get something to eat. Inko says as the two other women rub their ears from the pain of having their telepathically pulled with them, all walking onto a place where they could get dinner, seeing that Caitlin and Pony live outside the city and it takes them long to get home. This was the beginning of something sweet. Well for Izuku, as he now had no idea that he was the target of 3 girls and with 3 mothers now about to meddle with their love lives. While I think that the school is about to learn not to mess with Izuku, or you've got a dragon on your butt. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Pixel's fanbook on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.